Google just spent billions on AI agents that can't compete with what OpenAI shipped last month. And the reason isn't what you think. Let me back up. If you've been paying attention to the AI space, you've probably seen the headlines. Google dropped their new Gemini agents. OpenAI dropped their O1 reasoning model and then their agents framework. And on the surface, Google's got all the advantages: more compute, more data, more engineers. But when you actually look at what each system can do, there's a pretty stark gap. And it comes down to one thing: how each company decided to build reasoning into their AI. So here's what's happening. OpenAI took a different path. Instead of trying to make one giant model do everything perfectly, they built in explicit reasoning steps. Think of it like the difference between a student who blurts out an answer versus a student who writes down their work. The O1 model literally thinks through problems step by step before answering. It's slower, but it's way more accurate on hard tasks. And when you build agents on top of that, systems that can actually plan, use tools, and correct themselves, you get something that feels genuinely useful. Google's approach was different. They tried to scale up their existing architecture. More parameters, more training data, better optimization. It's the playbook that worked for them for years. But here's the problem. At a certain point, just making the model bigger doesn't solve reasoning. It's like trying to make someone smarter by just talking at them louder. At some point, you hit a wall. Now, the technical details matter here. OpenAI's agents can actually break down complex tasks. They can say, okay, I need to search for this information, then analyze it, then write code based on that analysis. And critically, they can catch their own mistakes. If a step goes wrong, the agent can backtrack and try a different approach. Google's agents? They're more rigid. They follow a path, and if something goes wrong, they don't have that same built-in correction mechanism. There's also a speed versus accuracy trade-off that Google didn't want to make. OpenAI's reasoning model is slow. It takes longer to think. Google wanted fast agents that could handle real-time tasks. But fast and accurate are often enemies in AI. You can't have both, not yet. And Google chose speed, which meant sacrificing the reasoning capability that actually makes agents useful. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Google isn't stupid. They know this. They're already working on their next generation. But there's a structural problem here. Google's entire business is built on speed. Search results need to come back instantly. Gmail needs to feel snappy. So when they build AI agents, they're optimizing for the same thing. OpenAI doesn't have that constraint. They can afford to let their agents think for 30 seconds if it means getting the right answer. The other thing working against Google is momentum. OpenAI got to market first with a working agent framework. Developers are already building on it. They're finding edge cases, reporting bugs, iterating. Google's agents are newer, less tested in the wild. And in AI, whoever gets real-world feedback first tends to win. It's not about who has the best lab results. It's about who can ship something people actually use and improve it based on that. There's also a culture thing happening here. OpenAI's whole identity right now is we're betting on reasoning. It's their flagship feature. Google's identity is still we're the search company, and that shapes how they prioritize. When you're optimizing for search, you optimize for speed and recall. When you're optimizing for agents that actually think, you optimize for accuracy and reasoning depth. Now, I'm not saying Google's out of the game. They have resources OpenAI doesn't. They have access to hardware, data, infrastructure that's unmatched. But resources don't always win in AI. Sometimes the company that commits to a single direction and goes all in wins against the company trying to do everything. And right now, OpenAI is all in on reasoning. Google is spread across a dozen different AI initiatives. The practical impact? If you're a developer or a company trying to build AI agents for real work, analyzing documents, writing code, managing workflows, OpenAI's stack is just more reliable right now. Google's agents work for simpler tasks, but when things get complex, they break down. That's the gap. And here's what's wild. This could flip. Google's next generation could leapfrog OpenAI, but that requires them to fully commit to the reasoning approach, which means accepting slower response times. And I'm not sure that's a bet Google's willing to make, given how their business is structured. So if you want to actually understand how AI is evolving, not the hype, but the actual technical choices companies are making and why those choices matter, subscribe. I break down one of these every few days, and this is the kind of stuff that actually shapes what AI can and can't do.